Hey everyone! Looks like it's part 3 time, or 4? Let's go with 4. Part 4! Let's talk about the 2 years that I spent with the big cheese. Arthur. Speaking of, we're like this close to winning the legal battle, and we're about to win like 22, like between 22 to 28 like $1,000 out of this case. So I'm actually quite happy about that because he's had it a long time coming, and you're about to learn just how much. So the year is 2014-2015, and as I stated in my previous video, my grades were just dipping. I was going through a pretty weird period of time. It would be like the first time that I think I had ever felt depression because my grades were just awful. And so I figured that I needed a little bit more discipline. So I moved with Arthur, and, well, when I first moved with him, I first met Pigeon, his woman, and we met relatively fine. I didn't think much of her, but again, this is when I first met Zofia, and around 3 days later or so, like, her windows were barred. So when we actually moved state yet again, and I applied to high school, I quickly noticed how Arthur would have this absolutely dreadful habit of, you know, getting all up in my business when I didn't want to talk to him. It was something that just happened really often. And I was just so tired of being under constant surveillance. And I'm not gonna lie, I was quite fed up with it at that point. So, let's talk about the two main memories that I have of this place. And the first one was probably the worst day of my life. So, it was just another day of keeping secrets from him, and that is something that he absolutely despises. Nobody keeps secrets from him in the house. And I was no exception. This led to a moment in which he broke into my room and in broad daylight just rummaged through my stuff as if I was hiding something from him. And that's when he found a note, a letter, that said, "Read me." I left you with a little cliffhanger last video, so today you get to learn what it was. It was a note detailing how I tried to be a good son, to be a good student. But I did my best to really try and be the best son that I could. And he flat out just read it verbatim and told me, "No, you didn't. No, you weren't. You didn't even try. I read you. Are you happy now? And just threw it. As you might have guessed, that was a suicide note. I had already planned it out. And that's when I just realized that it wouldn't even matter if I killed myself, because he wouldn't even care. And I did mention that I was getting really good at sneaking around the house in the middle of the night when everyone was sleeping. So much so that I could slip into his room without him noticing. The reason I did this was to figure out just how close I could get to him without him waking up. With a knife. Fortunately, it didn't come to that, but I was getting closer and closer every day. But we moved houses again, and I had to move school again. And all the people that I met were just forgotten. This is around the time when I met Gakame. I'm not sure if I mentioned her in the previous video. I've recorded so many of these and scrapped so many that I can't keep track anymore. Long story short, we became really good friends. I did something excessively stupid I might detail at some point. Though I'm not sure if I can, considering the rules of YouTube. I lost my best friend. I was left alone yet again. And I was just not in the mood. So, what happened? Well, I had a little sister. To give her, I don't know, some name, I'm just gonna call her Shell. Shell was really just a 3-year-old around this time. I was around 16, so I was in my moody years. Especially after losing my best friend, this was one of the worst ideas Arthur ever had. He went ahead and grabbed 2 of my Nerf blasters. He gave me the small rifle that I have somewhere back there, and he gave her the tiny pistol, the Jolt. If any of you know anything about Nerf blasters, is that the Jolt has a very potent spring, and I just happened to manage to break the throttle. So this thing had a lot of power. Whereas my rifle was old and it had already been losing power. Long story short, he put a 3-year-old girl with a very potent pistol versus a teenager that had recently lost his best friend, had been constantly harassed by this absolute douchebag, and was just not in the mood to really be playing around with things that actually hurt. It doesn't take a genius to understand what happened. But the obvious happened. She shot me. It hurt. I got pissed off. and I shot back at like 3 feet of distance. So it was potent enough that it hurt. I was grounded for something that was his idea, and I just had enough. I threw one of the darts over my shoulder, and it accidentally hit him. It was not my intention, but it was a little bonus. He questioned me. I didn't really care. The next thing I know, I hear him run behind me and push me with all his force towards the bed and start beating on me. I half expected it, but one thing that I did not expect was I had grown to the point that his hits no longer hurt. The adrenaline was finally taking over. And this is when I realized that I could take him on. So in the bed, I kicked and flailed just enough to get a good hit in and sending him reeling back. I stood up and I instantly went into fisticuffs, waiting for him to throw another punch so that I could retaliate. He didn't, and neither did I. I remember he said something along the lines of, if we continue living together, we're gonna kill each other. I'm gonna have a heart attack, and I'm gonna kill you with a punch. I remember thinking at that moment, you fucking wish. I remember he called my mother. My mother asked how I was doing. I told her it was the best day of my life. He was like, oh, the best day of your life? Go fuck yourself. And I was like 2 seconds away from telling him, like, the perfect comeback. In Spanish, we have a saying that goes, chinga tu madre. Essentially, go fuck your mother. I had the perfect reply. It was a 3-stage insult that just goes back to back to back. I just didn't say it, and I regret it to this day. For those of you that know Spanish and are vulgar enough to know what I'm talking about, you know. That day I was sent home with, well, just a ticket for the bus, what I was wearing, and my phone. That's it. He kept everything else. All my clothes, all my toys, my blasters, everything that I had. I got them back later on, but I was sent home really with nothing. And I still remember that around this time, my brother was gifted his PS4, and, well, I was going to be forced to live with him. And my brother never really did anything to earn my scorn. However, it's kind of difficult to remove the context behind his inaction. But we'll talk about that some other day. For now, one of my favorite stories that I tell a lot of people of the day that I finally stood up for myself. For now, take care. I'll try to upload perhaps 2 of these a day. We'll see if maybe we can get the other one out today. We'll see. See you on the other side.